Would you judge me if I told you that I sold foot pics? I wish that were true. I wish that I could say that my feet were cute enough to be sold as feet pics. I'm so fascinated by this story in the news recently about this streamer named Sketch, who recently was revealed as a former OnlyFans model who worked as a submissive, gay, I guess cross-dressing bottom. And that's very far from the image that he was becoming really well known for. And it seems like this is someone who was really, really well beloved. People really liked him. Apparently there are a bunch of athletes who did dances that were inspired by him. Apparently he's been very well loved, very well embraced within the Texas community, which is of course very conservative typically. So something like this being revealed obviously would be something that would potentially cause issues in his career. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Hi, my name is katblaque, and I like to think that I make content for introspective hot people. And if you're here, I'll assume that's you. And if you're new here, you know exactly what to do if this video pleases you. Click that button and join us over here on the channel. So I've been trying different things with this channel. I've been experimenting. I settled on video essays for a bit. I've been very happy about the video essays that I've been making on this channel lately, but I really have missed just hanging out with you guys and talking directly to you. So this is going to be another one of those videos, and I'm very curious to know how you guys feel about this type of content on this channel. I'm going to commit to making those video essays in the way that I've been making them. That's going to be the main thing that I put on this channel, but occasionally I want to pop over and have a conversation with you guys about something that's trending. Now, full transparency, I don't know too much about these streamers that all the kids be listening to these days, but I have seen a couple of clips of him and I find him to be very funny. He reminds me so much of a Letterkenny character.
Going deep, Sketch. You like to go deep, don't you?
Oh yeah, I'm known for going deep. I swim in the deep end, I live in the deep end. I'm like a shark. You probably live at the kids' pool, like Josh Giddey.
I steal from the homeless, and I take from the rich. I don't care. Robin Hood and Robin who? I'm in your hood robbing everyone. That's what I do.
Right down in the middle, O.J. Simpson style. Look at me. Do 10 burpees and then get on the mic. I want to see what you sound like, because I'm going to compare it to a video of my pug and going to see what the difference is.
I technically did graduate from junior college.
Yeah, and I'm technically a war veteran because I played Warzone. But look at me, I'm not talking about it. I'm worse than Thanos. When I snap, everyone disappears.
I can't stand up. I'm bricked. I'm bricked. It's okay. Waistbanding it. 1 second.
You ever been fired by your dad? Me, twice. Great guy, though. He took me back for the 3rd time, and this time I quit. Bam, look at that. Uno reverse.
Now, part of why I wanted to do this particular video is because, as I've discussed a couple of different times on here, I am a former cam girl. I was a cam girl for a very short period of time, but it was something that really immensely impacted me. It was something I did out of survival. I was in a situation where I was in college. I needed money for books. I was trans. I had a hard time being able to get normal employment in Valencia, which is hella conservative, right? And the option that I was presented at the time was to potentially become a cam girl for this well-known website that I will not be naming in this video. But it was something I did for a little bit of time. I made a little bit of money, and my personal feelings around my body really shifted after I did that work. It was not work that I felt very good about. And one of the big things that I learned through the process of doing this is that sex work is work, right? Sex work is not easy. It can't be. It's hard to be, especially an online sex worker. And there are a lot of aspects of this conversation around Sketch that I felt the need to just shed a light upon, because there's a lot of people talking about this, and we're going to go over that video essay that was made that exposed all of this. And there's nuances that I feel like some people miss. And I think that some people believe that a streamer for Twitch is so dramatically different from an OnlyFans performer. And I wanted to unpack that partially in this video. So all of this started because there was a creator on here who created a video that essentially exposed all of this. Now, I'm going to show you part of that video. I have a lot of commentary about this video because as a person who makes these videos for a living, as a person who does video essays, it came off as somebody trying to over-intellectualize a very, very common source of bigotry. And for me, the video is very plainly homophobic. But there are some conversations I think that we can have about what's in that video and about a lot of the very optics of the video. So we're going to watch this and then we're going to have a little bit of commentary. The video is called The Real Sketch, The Untold Story of Jamie Marr.
Kylie Cox, known online as Sketch or the Sketch Reel, was previously an LGBTQ+ adult content creator. He used names like Jamie Marr HTXXX, Jamie Marr T, Jamie Marr NSFW, and Jamie's Code Tour to create and promote content on places like OnlyFans, as well as X, formerly known as Twitter. This video was awkward to write, and it was just as awkward to put images together for and edit. I'm sure that awkwardness will translate into the viewing experience, so I appreciate you for watching and sharing if you see fit. I also want to add all the information and visuals are sourced from public content sites. None of this was pulled from Kylie Cox's personal life or personal data. This was all things that Kylie created and shared in his previous attempt to become internet famous prior to his content creation under the moniker of Sketch. I sat on this story for a couple of weeks. I was unsure if I really needed to create it and share it with the world. However, I did go to school for journalism. In NJ school, they taught us if a story meets the standards of timeliness, proximity, interest, controversy, sensationalism, prominence, and novelty, according to Shoemaker et al. 1987, it is newsworthy and it needs to be shared with the public.
Needs to be shared. So, okay, here's the thing. Immediately, why is this a premise, right? What I hate about this video, and I'm going to probably talk about this a lot as we go through this video, is, again, you're trying to over-intellectualize this. This really boils down to something very simple. You have a parasocial relationship with Sketch. You, as a person who has formed a very particular image of who Sketch is in your mind, feel like this person, this character that Sketch puts out is someone who needs to remain consistent completely within your complete understanding of them. They can't ever exist outside of the character they portray. And what's funny to me about that is that is the exact way that a lot of sex workers end up functioning, right? A lot of sex workers have to present themselves as single and available on the internet. They have to feed into a parasocial understanding of who they are to their audience. A lot of people on the internet who do online sex work have to form these parasocial relationships with their patrons because that is the thing that keeps them hooked. And interestingly enough, in both communities, usually their audience are lonely men, right?
Those of us unfamiliar with Kylie Cox, he's a native Houstonian and Texan who once upon a time played linebacker at the Woodlands Christian Academy. He's a member of the Kappa Sigma fraternity at Mississippi State University. He later transferred to the University of Oklahoma, then Texas State and Lone Star College, before ultimately deciding academics was not for him. At some point in 2023, Cox created the character Sketch and started to live stream himself playing Madden NFL on TikTok. He did this for a few months, and then one day, overnight seemingly, his catchphrase, "What's up, brother?" went viral and made him a sensation. Since then, 2024 has been a major year for Kylie Cox. He's partnered with people like the Houston Texans, Kai Cenat and AMP, Fortnite, Jinxie, other sports teams like the Dallas Mavericks, Tennessee Titans, and March Madness, and other people have been seen doing his "What's up, brother" emote, if you will. The likes of Bryce Harper, Johan Rojas, Bo Naylor, Kyle Tucker, just to name a few. But really, many of us only know that sketch. We only know the sketch from 2023. And in recent interviews, Kylie has said that prior to becoming Sketch, all he did was work with his family in their real estate business from 2020 to 2023. That could be part of the story, but we will uncover it is not the full story.
See, this is the part that I'm talking about, right? Like, why does he owe you the full story? Why? The only reason you feel that way is because you are in a parasocial relationship with this person. It's not normal to think that a person who you appreciate needs to tell you their life story. That's not normal. You only feel that way because of parasociality. So are you upset that you once really appreciated the content of a person who is a cross-dressed sissy bottom who gets fucked? Because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a safe space. Are you just mad about that? That, to me, that's what this seems like it's about, right? That's all it is. There's nothing else here. And the thing about it too, in this video, he has this transvestite old Hollywood movie thing going on in the background. And it's just very clear that the reason why you made this video is because you are uncomfortable with seeing someone you admire doing stuff like that. And that's fine. Why do you feel owed that information, especially when it's in someone's past, right? It really would be a different thing if this was happening simultaneous, but also who cares? Why shouldn't porn stars be able to also be entertainers in other ways, right? Is it that sex workers are just not allowed to move on from what they used to do? Is that what this is about? Because that's what this seems like.
Connect popular media with old school philosophy or even new school philosophy. Most times I'll watch a movie, read a book, or watch a TikTok and then see what's the underlying belief system in that TikTok and create a nice video about it.
A nice video.
I wanted my next video, this video, to be about Sketch. He's very popular. For the algorithm's sake, people will likely see a Sketch thumbnail and click on it.
See,
however, in doing my research
You're
for
honest.
Sketch's personal belief system, I ran across the comment from user Red Warfus on Instagram, who suggested Googling Jamie Marr HTXXX and Jamie Marr NSFW to quote see Sketch in his true form.
his true
with
form.
the warning that there was graphic content to be seen. In doing this, I discovered that before Sketch, Kylie Cox led a life of an LGBTQ plus adult content creator
No. Not
known
one
as
of
Jamie
those.
Marr HTXXX, as well as the several other monikers related to it. I understand that that is a very serious claim that again can have very huge implications on his future. So yes, we want to be certain that this person, Jamie Marr HTXXX, is Kylie Cox, who is Sketch. I mean, at the very base level, if you just look at the name, Jamie Marr HTXXX or Jamie Marr TX, that would indicate to us that this person is in the
Side
Texas
note,
area,
I love her screen
specifically
name.
Houston, which we know for a fact is where Kylie Cox, aka Sketch, resides
Like-
at as well. When we follow that name to Reddit, we
Okay.
get more confirmation that this person is indeed in Houston, because in 2021, they posted several times looking for Houston area meetups. They also posted a handful of times promoting their content on Twitter. Now, when you follow the link to Twitter, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to slice this, the account has been scrubbed from the internet.
Okay.
In fact, most things associated with Jamie Marr have been scrubbed from the internet, or at least attempted to have been scrubbed from the internet. Still, things remain. Things like a video in 2022 from Big DJ, who features Jamie Marr HTXXX, and looking at the screenshot here, we can see this person very closely resembles Kylie Cox
Okay.
or Sketch.
All right. And who
I mean,
cares?
most of which we're gonna have to just go off visuals and
the body
referencing
tea, though.
Jamie Marr,
The body
Kylie Cox, and
tea,
Sketch.
though.
But I do believe that is more than enough, especially paired
Yes.
with the fact that this character is in Houston, Texas. Sketch is in Houston, Texas. A lot of these things are adding
Hey.
up. Most of the video content is way too
Baddie.
explicit to share here on YouTube, so
Baddie.
we can't
She's
go
a
through
baddie.
it. However, I do suggest you do the research yourself.
Baddie,
A quick
baddie,
search
baddie.
will pull up exactly what you're looking for. One thing I can show is very edited down pictures, the likes of which, one, show Jamie Marr wearing very distinctive blue rectangular
She very
glasses,
tea.
which are identical to the ones that Sketch often wears, even as recently as a month or so ago. Again, most of it's cut out in this picture, but we can see the bottom of the rectangular frames that are blue, and then the arms being a distinctive brown, perhaps a black color. Again, cross-reference with other pictures of Sketch. Those are the exact same glasses. Now, yes, people
He's so
often have the same
adorable.
glasses, or at least the same aura of glasses, but blue rectangular
Also,
frames
how
with
tall
colored
is-
arms is very unique.
Is that Jack
Connecting
Harlow?
that with
Is that
the-
Jack Harlow? Is that
the
who
very
that
unique
is?
look of Sketch in the hometown of Sketch, in the hometown of Jamie Marr. it's hard to chalk that up as coincidence only.
Okay.
Similarly, we have
You sounded
Jamie
obsessed,
Moore
sir.
black wireframe glasses and a hairstyle that's also very
I love
similar
this
to
rhinestone
Sketch,
catsuit,
aka
though.
Kylie Cox.
I need
This is
one.
now 2 ways to connect Jamie Moore and Kylie Cox: the blue rectangular glasses, the black wireframe glasses, paired with the location-based matchmaking. It's very hard to just chalk that up as coincidence, and maybe just so happens Jamie Moore lives in the same place and wears the same glasses and hairstyle as Kylie Cox. This is really all that I can share on YouTube without getting entirely too graphic, and again, just, getting my video taken down and defeating the whole purpose of this. I will likely share more evidence on Reddit or...
Why? Why do you
honestly,
need to share
just Google
evidence,
Jamie
sir?
Moore
Who the fuck are
HTXXX
you,
yourself,
sir?
and you'll see. It's
Why?
really
Like,
not that
why?
hard
What's the
to
point?
find if you know where to look.
Why does it matter that this person who you've enjoyed in one way used to do entertainment in a different way? I guess for me personally, it wouldn't really change my mind about a lot of people, right? There's definitely been people in my life who I've discovered were sex workers, and I was like, oh, okay. But it didn't shift my view of them as a human being, like at all. I might not patronize them in that one way, but that doesn't mean I haven't patronized them in other ways. A lot of sex workers are artists in other ways. We're going to talk about that a bit. But just, it doesn't compute to me. It doesn't really make sense. So I think this is something that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And actually, when this first came out, there were a lot of people who were actually commenting on the fact that this is actually not a big deal and it actually does not matter.
I think we have our second instance of conservative little boy fan base to grown adult liberal fan base pipeline.
Sketch leak, sketch this, sketch that, right? First of all, it's a fucking image of him if it isn't him, right? Second of all, I couldn't give a flying shit. I do not care what he gets up in his spare time. It's interesting and it's a shock because I didn't expect it from the what's up, brother. But in reality, I couldn't give a flying shite if he is gay, if he's straight, if he's fucking bi. I do not give a shit. Ultimately, chat, and I'll be honest, if you're one of those people, by the way, who says, oh, I don't like Sketch anymore, Sketch, you are an absolute fucking gremlin to society. Genuinely, please look at yourself, right? You are an absolute fucking weirdo. Yeah, I mean, if I was Sketch, just crack on as usual.
I've been wrong in the past, and I will openly admit that to all of you guys. With this whole Sketch situation going on, I've honestly learned a little bit about myself. I was thinking about the Sketch situation last night and how I still enjoy him as a person, as a streamer, as an entertainer, as whatever you want to call him. And I found it weird that my thoughts didn't change on my opinion on Sketch, even though he did other stuff 2 years ago. So I thought to myself, why would I think about any other person on this planet like that? I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen my videos of me making fun of Chris from Mr. Beast for his whole transition and this, that, and the other. But with this whole Sketch situation, I've learned as an individual I can't be so close-minded to other groups of people. But to be honest, growing up and maturing is one hell of a drug. You are who you are, you love who you love, and there's no changing that. It doesn't matter who you were in the past, it matters who you are today and tomorrow. I've learned that in this life, you can be whatever you want to be, and you are who you are, and nothing's gonna change that. So from the bottom of my heart, from all my past videos, I'm deeply sorry for putting those out on the internet. I hope Sketch is gonna be alright.
First it was Ava Chris Tyson when she came out. I didn't really know much about her. I knew her because of Mr. Beast. But when she came out, I was her number one fan. Because a lot of times these creators that kind of appeal to teen boys have a conservative fan base because all the teen boys are conservatives and probably look up to Sneak Up. So anytime someone breaks that norm, I'm behind them. I know your little boy fans are probably judging you for being gay or trans or whatever. I'm not. I'm supporting you. Now, Sketch has come out with a secret and all the little conservative boys are acting like this is some huge horrible deal. Meanwhile, they defended Dr. Disrespect like a few weeks ago.
Bro, did you hear about Dr. Disrespect?
No, I didn't.
Apparently he was caught sending pictures to a child.
Pictures?
No, dude, not like pictures, like explicit pictures. He recreated the Drake video for a minor.
Proof.
They did an investigation. He lost his job. He lost his wife. He literally even admitted it himself on Twitter multiple times.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if I...
What?
I don't know if I believe that.
Okay. Did you hear what happened with Sketch?
Wait, what? No.
Some weird dude did a deep dive and found out he had an OF.
What?
And he might like men, maybe?
No!
Bro, it's...
No, Sketch!
Dude, it is not that serious at all.
No!
Relax.
Sketch, no!
Yo, relax.
Oh, stretch now.
What?
Bro's literally, he literally got his yacht stretched by me.
Oh my God, bro.
I can't believe the alphabet people got to him.
I don't think that's how
Oh
it
my
works.
God! I watched you.
Yeah.
Am I gonna turn gay?
No.
Am I gonna be gay now?
Dude, no, that is
Am
not.
I gay now? No, what am I gonna do?
You were a fully grown man.
We lost him, boys.
What?
We lost another
Lost
one.
what?
Is it in, brother?
What the fuck? Bro, Dr. Disrespect literally sent pictures to a
I
child.
don't care about that.
Are you crying,
Oh
bro?
my god, I can feel it. Oh my god, I'm turning gay.
They're acting like being gay is a crime, which it is not. Being a creator is not a crime either. And Sketch, from what I've seen, you're funny. You probably have a whole new grown adult liberal fan base behind you. As long as y'all don't do anything bad, pull the Dr. Disrespect card or anything like that, I got you. I'll be your biggest fan.
This just in, straight men discover empathy for the very first time after a gamer that they like, Sketch, is outed as gay. Then they come onto social media and they're like, you know what guys, gay people, maybe they're not that bad.
The resulting discourse about this has been completely predictable, unfortunately, with a lot of homophobia. And then, surprisingly, completely unpredictable in a way that is super encouraging. This kid might actually accidentally end homophobia, I think.
Sketch has officially ended homophobia. If you don't fuck with Sketch just because he's really gay and he did OnlyFans, prime Sketch fan, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old teenagers who are on Kick and Twitch, really prone to being fucking homophobic, and everyone fell in love with this guy when you didn't know he was super gay. Everyone who's gay is gay, but he's really gay. Nothing wrong with that. Now the one piece of new information that's come out is that Sketch is gay and he's done OnlyFans content that you can see, and it's kind of good. You are now faced with the reality that someone that you once very much admired and imitated and dick rode very much is gay, and he was cool, and he is cool, but he's also just gay now. If you don't fuck with Sketch just because he's gay, he's the same guy he just was when you liked him and when everyone else liked him. He's just gay now. Nothing's changed. You know what I mean? This applies to all gay people.
I was trying to think back to how I have felt about this over the years, right? Because I know as a person who was raised very Christian and very sex negative, I know that there was a time in my life where I really deeply stigmatized sex work and sex workers. And I definitely would see somebody who is a sex worker as a lower person, right? And when I watched this video, that's what it sounded like, right? This sentiment that because Sketch had at one point done sex work, this is something that must always be known, must always be remembered so that he could never live the shame of it down. And the thing that really broke my heart is that when this came out, Sketch had a really hard time. Sketch almost ended his life.
But on a real note, I've been living under the threat of that coming out for 2 years. Started social media, just sticking around, had that in my past. I'll tell you what, weight lifted off my shoulders. God is good. God is good all the time. But weight off my shoulders, to be honest. You have some stuff in the closet, no pun intended there. But yeah, it came out. I tell you what, I was going and doing all this different stuff. I was going in the back of my mind, holy shit. And guess what? Holy shit was last night. And I have a lot of people to credit for. I'll be honest. Plan A was, and I will say candidly, was to probably probably to call it quits if this ever came out. But some people saved me. Shout out Banks. Shout out my parents. Shout out y'all. I fucked up, but I'm changed. Yeah, that's about it though. My original plan was there's two things. One, either be delusional and think it's never going to come out, or two, what's the plan after? The plan after was not very good. If I was alone and I was at my house, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. But the people at FaZe, Banks, especially, and my friends that I've made over the past couple years came in and they saved me. I don't know. Fuck it. We start streaming more often. I probably, or quit. I don't know. One of the two. What Kim Kardashian do? If I get one more text about Kim Kardashian, I swear that doesn't make anything better. I'm just kidding, but I've been referenced to Kim Kardashian more often today than I have in the past 20 years of my life. Pretty cool. Wow. Awesome job. Love y'all. I don't know. I probably should end. I'd rather you know my flaws, though, so it makes it easier.
Very clearly, in my opinion, this video is trying to draw ire and stigma towards him because of his sexual acts, because of how he was dressed, right? That's what this is about. That's really what this is about. And it's also encouraging people to look up this information. It's encouraging the trail to never quite get cut off. It's funny because I remember when I was doing cam work, I was really paranoid about anyone ever finding out. Unfortunately, I did it before a time where people would record a lot of people's content. So there's really no history of it. I get to just reference it as something that happened. There's no like evidence of it. And I am thankful for that because it has in some ways allowed me to avoid certain aspects of stigma in terms of being a former sex worker. But still, I had such a fear around it ruining my life. And actually, I'll share this story with you guys. When I first got with my ex, there were people who tried to expose me to him as a cam girl. And I had to tell him that I was a former cam girl. This was like at the very beginning of our relationship, right? And he hung up on me when I called him and talked to him about it. And he almost broke up with me over it. And looking back, that hurt in a way that I wasn't really able to quantify until I got a little older, because ultimately, yeah, I did sex work, right? Like I was in a situation where I needed money. I wasn't able to get hired. I wasn't able to get a normal job. There were people that were willing to pay me to exploit myself, but they weren't willing to let me exploit myself under capitalism. So do you know what I mean? It's just, that's the way that it went, right? I remember being really afraid of anyone ever finding out about it. And one of the reasons why I talk about it a lot now is kind of like, so it's never a secret. I don't really like having secrets. I don't really like having secrets at all. I think that that's a really scary way to live. And I think honestly, having that experience with my ex made me realize I shouldn't keep it a secret. It should just be a thing that part of my past is what it is, right? It's my lore. I like to think of it as my lore, you know? But anyway, like I understand the feelings that he had because that is how deep the stigma is. And especially when you live in a conservative town, the thought of your church seeing it, the thought, oh my God, it's crushing. I've been there. I have 100% been there. It's funny. I've been an atheist for so long that even in my recounting of how I feel about being a former sex worker, I forgot how much I was afraid of like the church finding out, right? That is such a big, heavy source of inner terror. And so I understand completely how he felt in that moment. I really, really do. And fortunately, there were people around him in his life to make it clear that they don't feel differently about him. And I think that that's amazing. I really, really do. From what I can piece together, and this may be my projection, Sketch seemed like he was doing a little bit of survival sex work, right? Sketch seemed like he was doing a little bit of survival sex work. Like I said, my experience with sex work was it was traumatizing, right? It wouldn't surprise me if that was also his experience, right? And to reiterate a point I made earlier, people like to pretend that like being an OnlyFans model and being a streamer is dramatically different when it's not. When I became a Twitch affiliate for a very short period of time, I used the old webcam that I used for camming, the Logitech C920. If you know, you know, BB. It's not that different. Honestly, one of the reasons why I struggle to stream on Twitch is because I used to be a cam girl and I don't like the way that it makes me feel. I don't like the need to be available to everyone all the time. I don't like the need to be responsive, to form a relationship. I don't like that, because as much as I love you guys, there's some of y'all who have been in my comment section for a really long time and we've been rocking for a bit. Some of y'all have run into me on the dance floor. Some of y'all have definitely become my friends, but I don't know most of you. I don't want to pretend like I do when I don't. And that's one of the things that I have a hard time with, how selling a part of yourself. That's, for me, that was part of why sex work was so hard. Just even look at the pictures that were leaked, right? Part of being an online sex worker is you gotta change up your vibe every 3 weeks. And it's funny, I've been in this phase right now where I'm doing like cool little photo shoots and these backdrops and things. And I realized the other day that the last time I really committed to doing that was when I was a sex worker. And it's funny because maybe this is like an evolution of that in a way. It probably is, if we're being honest. That and my obsession with this goddamn website. But anyway, I understand all of the terror of what he was feeling. And I'm happy to say that, really happy to say that a lot of people didn't turn their back on him. But anyway, let's get back to this video. Now, this next part is the part that really killed me. This part is full on bullshit. full on bullshit. And here's the thing that I hated about this. Like, I appreciate that y'all like making oh girl, we're gonna rant. We're gonna go rant. I appreciate that y'all like making video essays. I really do. I really do. I love it. I think it's great. But sometimes I wish you would just like, you don't need to video essayify it, right? Like, you can just come on and say, oh, by the way, so-and-so was a cross-dressing bottom, and here are the pictures, here are the receipts. Like, you don't need to intellectualize this. And to me, this part of the video is so full of shit. So full of shit, right? Because it's okay, you're gonna try to pretend that this is about some like greater message, some greater meaning, and it's not. It's not more complicated than you being homophobic and trying to bring someone's previous life up. I hate when people pretend that it's something other than it is. I hate that. Don't insult me. Just do your receipts, spill your tea, do what you need to do. But don't shit in my coffee and call it sugar.
Is all that I really have to say that Kylie Cox initially started out as a adult content creator. That's not super duper exciting. Yes, it's
not
breaking news, it's new information, but how does that really bolster the channel that I'm trying to create here and telling a story of history and philosophy attached to these pop cultural events and icons? So I had to do some research. I thought to myself, why is it that ex-workers are always directly linked to the entertainment industry, the theatrics industry? Why do they always transition back and forth so easily? Is this just a 21st century thing? Is this the rise of TikTok and OF and Linktree? Is that what really has gotten us here? Is it Instagram's fault?
This dude asked, why are sex workers so connected to the entertainment industry? Because sex work is a form of entertainment, BB. That's why a lot of sex workers are also entertainers. I know so many artists in LA who are sex workers and also entertainers, right? I know so many people who are singers who are also strip performers, right? My friend, she is an amazing artist. Shout out to Kelly. She's also an amazing singer. And I just recently went to go see her do some pole at one of my friend's birthday parties in Hollywood recently. And she is someone who I think of when I always think of this, like she does all of these different things. And one of the things that she does is sex work, right? A lot of sex workers are also entertainers. And a lot of people, once they get out of sex work, because they're entertainers, want to go into the entertainment industry, right? And once again, being a streamer on Twitch is really not that different from being an online sex worker. Both people create a certain character that they project on their platforms that form a parasocial relationship with the person who is essentially their patron. And then that person becomes so invested in maintaining that relationship that they return over and over and over and over and over again. It's a very simplistic formula. And just like when some dude in a cam girl's audience finds out that the girl he's watching isn't really single, people are going to be very disappointed when they find out that the streamer that they admire, who they have a very particular image of, probably doesn't fully live up to that image. It's silly because these two things, they're both an issue of parasociality. And instead of focusing on the stupid history shit that he's going to focus on in this video, that would have been a way more interesting angle, because that is really at the core of this conversation, the issue, that the idea that you as a stranger are owed the history of an entertainer that you appreciate, somebody who you don't have a personal relationship with, but who you have enjoyed entertainment-wise. It's a very silly, entitled attitude that really is informed by parasociality that frankly was kind of a more recent occurrence, right? There have always been things like parasociality, but the way that it functions online especially is very, very different. That's a more interesting question. I'm not going to write your video essay for you.
And in researching, I found that the two have always been linked together inescapably. If we go back to ancient Rome, the connection isn't super duper clear, but they are definitely in the same social status, right? Most oftentimes, actors, ex-workers were slaves and servitude to the people of ancient Rome and ancient Greece. At the time, both things were disapproved, especially acting, because Plato thought that this was deceitful. This was a person pretending to be someone else, and that was morally wrong. Because of that, that was disapproved, especially because
This
they
old
knew
white guy,
that
he,
a slave, they were doing much more than just acting on a stage in front of the town. Connection gets overwhelmingly clear when you go to China in the 13th century, where they're not slaves, they're free-willing participants who are going town to town, acting and spreading entertainment. The issue is, this is prior to people really understanding the value of that. This is pre-TikTok, this is pre-Twitch, pre-YouTube, pre-Hollywood, right? There's no understanding that they are providing a genuine service that could be by everyone. Them acting town to town was also them selling themselves town to town, because after they got off stage, they'd interact with townspeople, come to agreements, and perform acts that adults perform together to support their lifestyle and make it to the next town so they could do the same thing there, and then in the next town, and the next town, and so on and so forth. So again,
parts of what he's saying are not completely wrong. There are definitely things that have existed that are like this too, but also a lot of sex workers are also artists, starving artists, right? There are a lot of people, especially when you're in like the stage performing industry where you need to keep your body in a certain shape, right? There are a lot of people who, because they already do this thing that is very focused on their image, they also end up often tearing into doing sex work occasionally, right? That is a very common thing that is just something that has been observed through history. Beautiful starving artists selling their bodies in order to feed themselves. The arts don't really pay a lot of money.
Again, we now have the pairing of theatrics, entertainment being directly tied to X work. Then along comes kabuki in Japan, and this time
kabuki.
The connection between the two is right in everyone's face. It is very clear that the kabuki actors are going to perform acts for people that have the money to patronage them and support their troupe. Again, making this connection inescapable for all of us.
Inescapable.
Over time, this does shift a little bit, especially once we get into the 18th and 19th century. Now, the wealthy kind of understand this connection between theatrics, entertainment, and X work.
What does this have to do with anything you have tried to say in this video?
They now want the actors for themselves, but they don't want the commoner to know that that's what they're doing with this actor. And so it gets hidden a little bit. We don't understand that, oh, this actor is supporting themselves through a different kind of thing. And this kind of goes on from 18th and 19th century all the way up into the 21st. Then once you get to the 20th and 21st century, it's almost there is very small amount of X work being performed by the actors, and most of it is just truly high class people patronaging them and supporting their arts. But now I think in the 21st century, we are circling back to that original deep and inescapable connection between X work and entertainment work.
Inescapable.
And I think that you see that happen.
Like, you're saying this like it's so profound, and it's like sex work is entertainment, and a lot of entertainers are sex workers. There's no profound connection. It's all performance. Again, parasociality, performance. Are people actually the characters that they project, right? It's in a lot of ways, I understand why people get caught up with this, because a lot of times when influencers or people who make content, like myself, I guess, make content, you feel like you are having an intimate sort of connection a lot, because a lot of us, we're just like ourselves, right? Like on social media, right? Or at least that's the perception, right? Right now, I'm projecting an idealistic version of myself, right? I'm standing in a way that is making myself look maybe a little bit better on camera. I've got lights on me. I'm presenting, I'm performing, right? And what you know of me is based on that. The performance, not so much always who I may actually be. There's a requirement, I think, in a lot of ways for online influencers to indeed put together a certain character version of themselves, a sort of idealistic, branded, correctly placed version of themselves, right? That's coming with the territory. And maybe we should be having a conversation about how maybe that sets up false feelings and presents false images and influencing as a concept and the weirdness of it all. I think that there's definitely some conversations to be had there about that. And that's kind of like, I think, the thing that really should be being explored in this video. Him appealing to ancient Greece and Japan and kabuki theater and all these, like, to me, it sounds a lot of oh girl, we're gonna get into it. A lot of these dudes who are like, oh, I love philosophy. They have this tendency to only really see things in like a way where anything that they validate must be validated first by some old white man, right? You don't need to talk about ancient Greece to talk about current trends in sex work and this weird parasociality thing with online social media figures, right? Like, you don't need to do that. I understand why you're doing it, but there's always a connection between entertainment and sex work is such a silly point because duh. It's obviously that. It is entertainment. And that is what I think some people need to unpack, because that's a conversation people have all the time about sex work, right? People don't understand often that it is a performance, right? That's why sex work is work. It's a fucking performance to make it seem like you're always having a great time when you're probably not, when you're on like a set for 6 hours and like you're actually in a really uncomfortable position that isn't natural to you because you're trying to like get the right shot. That is work. It is performance. And again, one of the things that I learned when I tried to do cam work was just, it's a lot of work, girl. It's a lot of work. It really, really is. It's a lot of work. And I'm just not built like that. I'm just not built like that. And frankly, a thing that I didn't like about being a cam girl, let's get into it, is when you're someone like me, there's a very particular kind of type of person they want, right? Like, I'm a submissive, but if I want to sell myself on the internet as a sex worker, I got to be the big, black, aggressive dom, right? That's what would sell. Right? For me to essentially be the complete opposite of who I am and to play into like racist stereotypes and all these other things. That is what would sell. That is what would sell. As a Black person, being a sex worker online, especially when your audience is mostly white, a lot of it is people want you to do things you don't want to do. And that for me is the thing that makes it super, super, super work, because you do have to like disassociate a little bit in order to perform and to put together something that maybe has nothing to do with who you are, but maybe you're just very invested in creating that fantasy, and that may be part of the work that you enjoy. But for me, I'm just not built like that. I'm really just not built like that. And I'm very, very thankful to you guys and all of your continued support that over the years has kept me out of doing that sort of stuff. I mean that very genuinely. I talked about this a little bit on my TikTok, but a lot of people don't know that one of the things that's devastated me about losing my Facebook page is that was one of the first big sources of income that I had in terms of like me getting gigs that ended up becoming really financially lucrative to me. And yeah, being able to get to that degree where I was doing public speaking all the time, that kept me financially secure in a way where I never had to consider doing anything like that ever again. And I'm so thankful for that, because you know, that I don't want to ever go back to that. I really don't. I've struggled to get to a point I am now, right now, where I'm embracing my body a little bit and I'm like being sexy and things like that in a way that is for me and not a performance, because I was 19 when I was doing this, and my personality when I was 19 was a lot weaker than my personality now. It hit me a certain way, and it fucked up a lot of things about my own sexuality, and I'm getting back into myself a little bit more, and I feel pretty good about that. And I think that kind of comes through a little bit in these videos sometimes, because, you know, I've been feeling like getting real glam lately. So hopefully that comes through. But anyway, I feel like we don't really need to watch more of this video. I think that this is like covering all the topics I want to talk about. When I first heard this story, there were a lot of people who were initially saying that stuff like this happening in this age, like right now, is a sign of maybe a resurgence of homophobia and bigotry, specifically against LGBT people, right? But it seems like the way that everyone's responded to this is kind of like, so what? And to me, that really, 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 really is progress. Because at the end of the day, it shouldn't really matter that he did that. And honestly, girl, can we talk about this for a second before we go? Some of y'all are not prepared to understand that a lot of heterosexual masculine men are cross-dressed sissy bottoms in their bedrooms when no one's watching. Girl, I get it. You don't like it. I understand it. It makes you uncomfortable or whatever. but like it's more common than you think. Who cares? Who cares? Literally, who cares? Who cares? I can't imagine caring. I really can't. It's weird to me. Like it's who cares? And I mean that genuinely. Like we're talking about it, like there's conversation to be had, but who cares? Who cares? And I love that that was the reaction other people had. I really do, because it shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter. And yes, a lot of it's predicated on him not currently doing it, but still, it shouldn't matter, right? At the end of this video, he was like, I wonder how his sponsors are going to feel about this information. And it's, y'all are just bitter. Y'all are just bitter. I haven't seen a lot of his content, but he really does seem like a bright soul. And truly, I think we need more people like that. We need more bright, positive, uplifting, fun people who keep us having a good time. And I hate the idea that because he may be doing this in his private life or may have done this in his private life, apparently he can't be that still. That's really odd. And I'm glad that we're moving beyond that bigotry, because who cares? Who cares? Anyway, I'm really curious to hear what you guys feel about this video that this guy uploaded. I did see that he posted like an apology on his page. Let me see if I can track that down. Okay, I'm actually not seeing it. I thought I saw an apology at some point, but I don't see it at all right now on his community page. So I don't know, dude. That's pretty shitty. That's pretty shitty. It is what it is. You got your fame. Here's the thing. I'm just gonna be very honest. You got your moment, right? You broke a story, and I think that that's awesome. But watching this video as like a person who also makes content like this, really think deeply about really what you're talking about in the videos, because the points that you make about history and entertainment and sex work, they're nonsense points. They don't really add anything. They don't add anything. And I will say, here's the thing. I get the impression that this person who made this video is pretty young. And I'm not trying to sound condescending, but if you go out into the world as an adult, you are going to run into people who are artists and also sex workers. You're gonna see that connection. You're not gonna need to research ancient Greece and Japan and China to come up with all of these interesting things to say, because it's gonna be a very apparent thing to you that a lot of poor artists also do sex work. It's gonna be very obvious to you that sex work is a form of entertainment, right? This is a person who lacks perspective yet. And genuinely, I hope that when this person goes on to make more videos, that they start to think a little bit more holistically about what they're putting together. Anyway, on that note, if you guys really enjoyed this video, please go support me over on Patreon. Patreon is where I upload all of my content before it hits here, and I like to have private vlog conversations with you guys over there about say things. I have been going through it, been changing a lot of things, girl. There have been a lot of behind the scenes little things that are going on lately, lots of life changes as of late. So if you're interested in hearing about any of that stuff, go over to my Patreon. That is where we all hang out and have those conversations. And yeah, anyway, on that note, I will talk to you guys later. And as per usual, I want you to always remember and to never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.